Margaret Wilson had lit the kitchen light alone every morning for 50 years. At 72, that habit hadn't changed, not when her son married Ashley. Not when her grandson Tyler was born, and not now. The house slept until 7. Margaret was awake at 4. The kitchen was always hers. Her husband Gerald had been gone 16 years. They had been poor when they were young. There were months in the 1970s when they wondered how they would make it. Then the Middle East construction boom changed everything. In 1982, Gerald took a contract with an engineering firm operating out of Dubai. The money was good. The heat was brutal. He would be gone for 3 years. Margaret drove him to the airport and waved until he disappeared through the gate. He never looked back. She would remember that for the rest of her life. He came home with enough money for a real house and enough for Tyler's father to go to college. Those 3 years built everything this family had. And Gerald came home with something else too. A handwritten recipe tucked into the back of an old envelope. When Tyler came back from his own Dubai business trip last fall, he brought a bag of Dubai chocolate cookies. Chocolate and pistachio, sticky and sweet. Something the whole world was suddenly obsessed with. He pushed one into his grandmother's hand the moment he walked through the door. "Try it, Grandma. Everyone in Dubai is eating these. They're everywhere." Margaret put it in her mouth. Sweet, chewy, pistachio bitter underneath the chocolate. And then something strange happened. She knew this taste. She had no reason to know it, but she did. Something very old was sitting in that flavor. She couldn't sleep that night. She went to the closet and found the shoebox on the highest shelf. She had not opened it in years. Inside were letters in rubber-banded bundles. Near the bottom was one envelope with a Dubai postmark dated October 1984. Gerald's handwriting, faded but still his. She unfolded the letter. At the end of it was a smaller note, almost an afterthought. "Maggie, my friend here on the site is named Omar. He taught me how his mother makes a sweet. I wrote it down for you. Maybe someday you'll try it. I think if you make it, it'll be the best thing I ever tasted." There was a recipe beneath the note. Specific ratios for chocolate and butter. The exact temperature for toasting pistachios. The texture Gerald had described as the most important part. It was nothing like the versions circulating online. It was older than those. It was the original. Margaret stood in the kitchen until dawn. It took her 3 days. She adjusted the ratios twice. She burned the pistachios on the first try and the second. On the 3rd morning, she got it right. She tasted one standing alone at the kitchen counter. And she cried without fully understanding why. It tasted like Gerald's handwriting. The family ate them that Sunday evening. Tyler ate 3 and announced they were better than anything he'd had in Dubai. Her son Robert nodded through every bite. Ashley tried 1 and went quiet. Her expression was careful in a way Margaret noticed but didn't pursue. She assumed it was simply the pleasure of something delicious. That was where she was wrong. Within days, Ashley was appearing in the kitchen on weekends. She said she wanted to learn. Margaret taught her. It felt good, honestly. Her daughter-in-law had never been interested in baking before. They stood side by side and Margaret walked her through every step. Ashley took notes. Small, neat notes in a spiral notebook. The brand of chocolate. The temperature. The cooling time. Margaret answered every question. She had nothing to hide. 3 months passed. Tyler found his grandmother in the garden one afternoon and stood there for a moment before speaking. "Grandma, I need to tell you something. Mom has been selling the cookies." Margaret looked at him. She opened an online shop. Dubai Authentic Cookies. She's been selling them for about 12 weeks. Tyler showed her the page on his phone. Her cookies. Professional packaging, gold labels, beautiful photography. $45 a box. Already over 800 boxes sold. $36,000. Margaret was quiet for a long time. She wasn't angry, exactly. She searched inside herself for anger and found something quieter and heavier. She had been left out. Not one word had been said. No conversation about sharing the recipe. No offer to partner, no acknowledgement that the recipe had come through her at all. The packaging said nothing about where this had come from. What would you have done in her place? Would you have walked away from it? 2 nights later, through an open door that she had not meant to walk past, she heard Robert and Ashley talking. She might have noticed something. "Just wait. Once the business is bigger we can bring her in later." What about the trademark filing? Should we put her name on the recipe? No. It just makes things complicated. Complicated. That word sat inside her for a long time. She was the complication. Gerald's letter, written in the heat of a Dubai construction site in 1984, pressed by a man named Omar's mother into the palm of a man, who pressed it into a letter to a woman who spent 3 sleepless nights making it real, and she was the part that made things complicated. That night she sat in front of Gerald's photograph for a long time. She didn't say anything, she just looked at him. He was young in the photograph. Before Dubai, smiling like he had no idea what was coming. But the story didn't end there. A few days later, a call came from a number she didn't recognize. A Korean-American food consultant based in Dubai. He said Tyler had given him her number. Mrs. Wilson, I showed some of your cookies to buyers here in Dubai. Every single one of them said this tastes like the original. Not like what's being mass-produced now. The real thing. There are people here who want to talk about an export deal. Would you be open to that? Margaret held the phone and couldn't speak for a moment. She called Tyler in. He sat across from her and didn't look away. Grandma, I knew from the beginning it wasn't right. She should have asked you. She should have done it with you. So I reached out to a contact I have over there. Your recipe is the real one. The real thing belongs to the person it came from. Margaret held her grandson's hand. She sat down with Ashley the next morning. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't make accusations. She placed Gerald's letter on the table between them. This is a letter Gerald sent me from Dubai in 1984. The recipe is in here. I didn't create this recipe. His friend Omar taught it to him in the desert and Gerald wrote it down for me. That means this was never just mine to begin with. It came from Omar's mother to Omar to Gerald to me, and now to you. Something that moves between people like that doesn't belong to one person. I think you know that now. Ashley read the letter. She read it slowly, her finger tracing Gerald's faded handwriting. When she looked up her eyes were red. Margaret, I was wrong. I should have come to you first. I should have asked. That was all she said. It was enough. Margaret had not been looking for punishment. She had not been looking for an apology. She had wanted to stand beside someone in the kitchen and make something together. That was all she had ever wanted. The two women baked together that same night. No long conversation. Ashley toasted the pistachios. Margaret melted the chocolate. The kitchen filled with that warm, nutty smell. That meant something now that it hadn't meant before. It was enough. 6 weeks later, they filed a joint LLC. Ashley designed a new label that carried the name. They both agreed on Gerald's letter. The recipe printed on the inside of every box was Gerald's handwriting. Scanned and reproduced, faded ink and all. People who bought the cookies wrote in to say it made them think of someone. Of a father, a grandfather, someone who had gone somewhere hard. So the family could be somewhere better. On the morning the first Dubai export shipment left, Margaret put a single cookie on a small plate and set it in front of Gerald's photograph. They're going back, Jerry. I think Omar would have liked that. A letter written in a desert 40 years ago had found its way home. Margaret still turns on the kitchen light alone at 4 in the morning. But now, a little while later, the sound of slippers comes down the hall. Ashley ties on an apron without a word. 2 pairs of hands work the dough side by side. The kitchen smells like pistachios and chocolate and something that has no name. But feels like it matters. If this story reached you somewhere real, consider subscribing. Every week there is another one. Every week there is someone who has been carrying something for a very long time. And it is worth hearing.